Hey guys, wanted to go over another video. So this one's gonna be over universal life. Now I know we don't offer universal life, we don't sell universal life, but it's important that we understand how it works and what it does. We're gonna run across some clients of ours at times that's gonna have a universal life policy. And if you remember like I do, when we went through a lot of our training to become agents, they always try telling us, if you have a client with universal life, get them to bring in their policy, look at their illustration, because the majority of the times you find out that near the end of that policy it's going to run out of money and it's going to collapse on itself. Now, if you have no idea what any of that means, you don't understand how the universal and whole life is separate, that's not going to make a lot of sense. But what we found over time is that there's a lot of agents who would sell universal life as a whole life policy, really cheap and affordable, but they're structuring it so in the later years of that policy, it runs out. A lot of times we've seen policies by the time they're in their 50s, 60s, even 70s, the policy's dead, it's gone, there's no money left to keep it going. So what I'm going to explain is how some of that works, why it works the way it does, so we can educate our clients on why we should look at the whole life option versus the universal. All right, so what I've done here is I try to just kind of do your little circles here to kind of show you your comparison. So this is how a universal life works and kind of breaks down. On one side, you have your term policy, works exactly like a term, and on the other side, you have a whole life, exactly like a whole life. In the middle, and this is how they're similar, is we have our universal life and our ART term policies. So we've taken the term and we've taken the whole life and we've combined them together and we've gotten our universal life. And it's going to work very similar like an ART with the whole life benefits. So when we kind of look at it, here's a perfect example of how you can explain this, is we have our age and our rate. Now we lock that policy in, similar like we would with the whole life one, and the rate kind of stays the same at whatever age they are. So if we would say this is a 35-year-old male, we lock this rate in, and let's say it's $100 a month. All right. But when the policy originally was taken out, the premium cost $30 a month. So great, they're paying $100, policy only costs $30. There's a lot of excess money here. That's where we start building up some of those cash values and stuff you'd see in an illustration. What happens is over time, as they get older, the price is increasing. So now the price is finally caught up to $100 a month. All right, so now we can probably say this guy's probably closer to 50 years old. And as that keeps going up, the rate of the cost of the life policy, just like an ART, is annually renewing and is going up to the point where it could be $1,000 a month. So now you kind of see we've used all this extra money over here, and eventually it's going to offset each other, and now the cost of it's going to go up. So during this time period where the death benefit is going up, once we start getting over here, it's going to eat up the cash value. The death benefit and cash value is going to go down. That's when we see these policies when they're 80 years old and we're seeing it that it's crashing on themselves. There's no more money. And then their life agents at that time is telling them, you have to increase your premium to keep your policy alive. You got to start putting more money back into it. That can be a huge issue for a lot of people when they're not expecting that. So that's why we have to see their illustrations, because we know on the whole life side, it doesn't do that. The premium all stays the same, and that keeps the cash value and dividends and everything else, the death benefit, all this equal to each other. Another big rule to remember on these. Whole lives build dividends that you can actually take out and keep. You don't owe it back to the policy. Universal life does not. There is no dividends you can just take from a policy on a universal life. If you want to borrow money from your life policy, it is a loan and you owe that money back to it on an interest rate. Very similar how we do it on our whole life. You can borrow on a whole life, pay it back with an interest rate. If you don't, we subtract it from the death benefit. Different on universal. You can't pull that money, you can't borrow the dividends like you can on a whole life and not pay it back. Completely separate. Another benefit of the whole life policy versus the universal. So another one, this is one that I'll break out and I'll explain a lot to my clients when we're talking about going through some of the difference. So on this top chart, we have our universal life, UL universal. And the way those kind of work is up here, we're gonna have our IRS maximum and our minimum premium for the policy. And here's kind of what that set amount, we can come in here and say the $100 they've said they would pay. Anywhere between here is what that policy will allow you to pay. Obviously, the more you're paying up here, the higher of a dividends and cash value that policy will build, the better it will last. But the policy allows you to have a lot of flexibility in it, which can be great depending on what you're doing. But you can also run yourself in a lot of trouble if you're paying it down here. And a lot of life agents will set it up that way to get the policy submitted, and their clients have no idea, and then it runs out when they're 55 years old and there's no more life insurance. Whole life's a little different. It is set. It is stuck. The premium's not going to increase. There's not the flexibility with it. The premium's going to stay the same the entire life of the policy. It's not going to change. It's not going to run out. It's always going to be there. But at the same time, we're going to build dividends and our cash value surrenderable option. Understanding the difference of them allows us to explain it to our clients so they know what they're buying, what they're doing. This is an illustration that I've used for years explaining the difference between them. You're going to find some clients a universal life option is great for them and what they have is perfect. You're going to find plenty more that a whole life option is the better route to go. If they have one through another client, through another company, the Farmers, the Allstate, the State Farms, I would recommend asking them to go to their office and get it, because there's a huge chance you would find out that it was shrunk down. They shrunk down the premium coverage of it to sell that life app. There's no coverage when they're later on when they think about it. If you have a universal life client who's paying only $20 a month for a large policy that would cost us $50, ask them to see it. Guaranteed, they have a term policy paying the whole life price. Guarantee it. Check it out.